Rachel Wilson flinched visibly as the M4 carbine discharged on Fort Bragg's qualification range, her black hair falling forward to cover her face as she instinctively ducked behind the armorer's maintenance table. Around her, soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division exchanged amused glances at the weapons technician's reaction to what was, for them, the routine sound of small arms fire. "Wilson, how the hell are you the base armorer if you can't even handle the sound of the weapons you maintain?" called Staff Sergeant Martinez, his voice carrying across the outdoor range. The other soldiers laughed, their amusement barely disguised as Rachel straightened up, her face flushed with embarrassment. What none of them knew was that hidden beneath her long black hair lay a tattoo that would make every soldier on that range snap to attention. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that heroes come in the most unexpected forms, don't forget to subscribe. The morning had started like any other at Fort Bragg's Central Issue Facility. Rachel had arrived at 5:45 a.m. to prepare for the day's qualification shoots, meticulously inspecting each weapon before signing it out to the units scheduled for range time. As the base's senior civilian armorer, her job was critical, ensuring that every M4 carbine, M249 SAEE, and M240B machine gun functioned flawlessly when soldiers needed them. Actually handling weapons under fire wasn't part of her job description, but everyone found it strange that someone responsible for maintaining the tools of war seemed so uncomfortable around them. The sprawling Fort Bragg weapons maintenance facility was already humming with activity when she arrived. The early morning North Carolina air was crisp with the first hint of autumn, and Rachel had pulled her Army-issued maintenance jacket tighter around her shoulders as she made her way from the parking lot. She'd parked her weathered Toyota Tacoma in her usual spot, grabbed her security badge and maintenance toolkit, and headed into the armory's main building. The familiar smell of gun oil, solvent, and metal greeted her as she unlocked the reinforced door and disabled the security system. Inside, she went through her morning routine with methodical precision, checking the inventory logs, inspecting the weapons that had been turned in for maintenance the previous day, and preparing the firearms that would be issued to units for the day's training. Everything was in order, as it always was under her management, despite what the soldiers thought of her apparent fear of loud noises. "Wilson, we need 20 M4s and 4 M249s prepped for range qualification by 7 a.m., announced Sergeant First Class Daniels as he strode into the armory at 6:30 a.m. Daniels was the NCO in charge of coordinating with the civilian armorers, a combat veteran with 3 deployments and the no-nonsense attitude that came with it. "Already done, Sergeant," Rachel replied quietly, gesturing to the neatly arranged weapons on the issue counter. "I also included the 4 M4s with the new ACOG sights that Captain Reynolds requested." Daniels nodded, impressed despite himself. Whatever her quirks, Wilson was always prepared. "Good work. The 82nd has a qualification shoot this morning. I'll have my guys pick these up in 15. Now, as she stood at the armorer's maintenance table at the outdoor range, Rachel tried to control her reaction to the gunfire. It wasn't fear, exactly, more like an involuntary physical response that she couldn't fully suppress. Each crack of rifle fire sent a jolt through her nervous system, triggering memories she'd spent years trying to compartmentalize. She had come to the range personally today because one of the M249 squad automatic weapons had been reported as having feed issues, and she wanted to observe it in action before attempting repairs. It was easier to diagnose problems when you could see exactly how the malfunction occurred during live fire. "Seriously, Wilson, how did you even get this job?" asked Specialist Collins, one of the younger soldiers, as he approached the maintenance table with his malfunctioning M249. "You jump every time someone pulls a trigger." Rachel focused on the weapon rather than responding to the jab. "What exactly is it doing?" she asked, her voice professional despite the flush of embarrassment still visible on her cheeks. "Feed issues. It's jamming every third round or so," Collins replied, placing the SAO on the table. Rachel nodded and pulled a pair of mechanic's gloves from her pocket. Her hands were steady as she began to break down the weapon with practiced efficiency. This, at least, she could do without flinching. The mechanical aspects of firearms held no terror for her. "Stand back, please," she instructed Collins as she began her inspection. "I need space to work." The specialist stepped back, watching with grudging respect as she methodically disassembled the complex weapon system. Whatever her issues with gunfire, there was no denying that Rachel Wilson knew her way around the internal workings of military firearms. After a thorough examination, Rachel identified the problem: a worn feed pawl that was failing to advance the belt properly. "You need a replacement part," she told Collins. "I have one in my truck. I'll be right back." As she walked across the range toward the parking area, another burst of automatic fire rang out from the qualification line. Rachel flinched again but kept walking, her shoulders hunched slightly as if expecting a blow. Staff Sergeant Martinez, who had been observing from nearby, shook his head in disbelief. "I don't get it," he said to no one in particular. "How does someone who's terrified of gunfire end up as an armorer on the largest army base in the country?" What Martinez and the others couldn't know, was that Rachel Wilson understood firearms and their effects better than any of them could imagine. At her truck, Rachel unlocked the specialized toolbox mounted in the bed and retrieved the replacement feed pawl. As she was closing the toolbox, a commotion erupted at the far end of the range. She turned to see soldiers running for cover as a vehicle crashed through the perimeter fence approximately 300 yards away. The range safety officer's voice boomed over the loudspeaker. "Ceasefire! Ceasefire! Unknown vehicle breach at the south perimeter. All personnel take cover." Rachel froze momentarily, watching as the situation unfolded. The vehicle, a nondescript panel van, skidded to a halt near the range control tower. Three men in civilian clothes but wearing tactical vests jumped out, raising what appeared to be modified AR-15 rifles. "Armed intruders," came the announcement, followed by the sound of the base alarm system activating. In that moment, Rachel's demeanor changed completely. The nervous, flinching armorer vanished, replaced by someone entirely different. She dropped to a crouch behind her truck, eyes scanning the tactical situation with cold precision. The range was populated primarily by soldiers in the middle of qualification, meaning most had only their assigned weapons and the standard load of qualification ammunition, not enough for a sustained firefight. The range officer and two MPs were pinned down behind the control tower as the intruders advanced, firing controlled bursts that kept the soldiers from organizing an effective response. Rachel assessed the situation with the practiced eye of someone who had been in similar scenarios before. The intruders were moving with tactical discipline, using coordinated fire and movement techniques that suggested military or advanced paramilitary training. Without hesitation, Rachel reached back into her toolbox and removed a false bottom, revealing a compartment containing a disassembled Mech-12 special-purpose rifle, a weapon favored by special operations snipers for its accuracy and reliability. Her hands moved with fluid precision as she assembled the rifle in less than 30 seconds, each component clicking into place with practiced ease. From a separate compartment, she retrieved a magazine loaded with match-grade 5.56mm ammunition. As she slammed the magazine home and charged the weapon, her hair fell back from her neck, revealing a tattoo that had been hidden beneath it, the distinctive insignia of Joint Special Operations Command, with a series of hash marks and operational codes that only someone with the highest security clearances would recognize. Rachel moved to the front of her truck, using the engine block as cover as she established a stable shooting position. The first intruder was approximately 275 yards away, moving between positions with his weapon raised. Rachel took a breath, held it, and squeezed the trigger. The crack of the precision rifle cut through the chaos. The first intruder dropped immediately, a textbook center mass hit. Before the others could locate the source of the shot, Rachel had already acquired her second target. Another shot, another hit. The third intruder dove for cover behind a concrete barrier, but Rachel remained patient, controlling her breathing as she had been trained to do. When he exposed just a portion of his shoulder to return fire, she took the shot. The round found its mark with surgical precision. In less than 15 seconds, all three armed intruders had been neutralized. As the echo of her final shot faded, an eerie silence fell over the range. Slowly, soldiers began to emerge from cover, their eyes fixed on the unassuming armorer, who had just demonstrated a level of marksmanship and tactical proficiency that few of them had ever witnessed. Staff Sergeant Martinez was the first to reach her, his expression a mixture of shock and dawning recognition. "Wilson, what the hell was that?" Rachel was already breaking down the rifle, her movements economical and practiced. "Secure the perimeter and check for additional threats," she replied, her voice now carrying the unmistakable tone of command. "And get a medic to verify the status of the targets." Martinez found himself responding automatically to the authority in her voice. "Yes, ma'am," he said before catching himself. I mean, just do it, Sergeant, Rachel said quietly, returning the disassembled rifle to its hidden compartment. By the time the base quick reaction force arrived 5 minutes later, the situation was fully contained. The three intruders had been confirmed dead, and a preliminary search of their vehicle had revealed additional weapons and what appeared to be explosives. Colonel James Harrington, the base commander, arrived shortly after, accompanied by a team of military intelligence officers. As he surveyed the scene, his eyes fell on Rachel, who was speaking with one of the MI officers, her maintenance jacket now removed, to reveal a simple black t-shirt. With her hair pulled back in the aftermath of the incident, the tattoo on her neck was clearly visible. The colonel's eyes widened in recognition. He dismissed the soldiers around him and approached Rachel directly. Master Sergeant Wilson, he said quietly, using a rank that appeared nowhere in her civilian employment records. I think we need to talk. Rachel nodded once, her earlier nervousness completely absent. Yes, sir. I believe we do. 20 minutes later, Rachel sat across from Colonel Harrington in his office, the door locked, and a signal jammer activated to prevent electronic eavesdropping. Two other men were present, a stern-faced officer wearing the insignia of Defense Intelligence Agency, and a civilian in a nondescript suit who had introduced himself simply as Mr. Johnson. Would you care to explain why one of the most decorated special operations snipers in recent history is working as a civilian armorer on my base? Colonel Harrington asked without preamble. Rachel's posture remained relaxed but alert, the bearing of a veteran operator. Sir, my current assignment is classified under Special Access Program Stillwater. My presence here is authorized by General Mitchell at JSOC headquarters. The DIA officer nodded. We've confirmed her identity and authorization. Master Sergeant Rachel Wilson, formerly of Delta Force. 4 combat tours in Iraq and Syria as part of Task Force 88. 32 confirmed high-value target eliminations. And the reason for your cover identity? Harrington pressed. We received intelligence 3 months ago about a potential insider threat at Fort Bragg, Rachel explained. Someone providing access to secure areas for outside actors. My mission was to integrate into the base armory, a critical access point, and identify the security vulnerability. And did you? Asked Mr. Johnson, speaking for the first time. Yes, Rachel replied. Specialist Thomas Collins, currently assigned to the 82nd Airborne. He's been photographing weapons, serial numbers, and security protocols, then transmitting the data to external contacts. I confirmed the connection 2 weeks ago and was preparing my final report when today's incident occurred. Collins? Harrington looked shocked. He's one of the soldiers who was on the range today. Rachel nodded. The timing isn't coincidental, sir. I believe today's attack was meant to create confusion while Collins provided access to the main armory. The intruders were a diversion. Where is Collins now? The colonel demanded. Under observation by 2 of my team members, Rachel replied calmly. They've been in place since I identified him as the security risk. The DI officer raised an eyebrow. Your team members? 3 other operators are positioned around the base in similar cover roles, Rachel explained. Standard protocol for this type of counterintelligence operation. Colonel Harrington leaned back in his chair, processing this information. So the nervous gun-shy armorer act was exactly that, sir. An act, Rachel confirmed. It's easier to be overlooked and underestimated when people think you're afraid of the very things you're supposed to be expert in. No one pays much attention to the jumpy civilian who maintains their weapons. Except that cover is now thoroughly blown, Mr. Johnson pointed out. Your actions today have exposed your true capabilities to the entire base. Rachel nodded. The immediate threat required direct intervention. I made the tactical decision that neutralizing the armed intruders took priority over maintaining my cover. A decision that likely saved numerous lives, Colonel Harrington acknowledged. But it does complicate matters going forward. My team can complete the operation, Rachel assured him. Collins will lead us to his contacts, and we'll dismantle the entire network. The meeting continued for another hour as they discussed the details of the operation and next steps. When it concluded, Rachel found herself walking back to the armory alongside Colonel Harrington. The soldiers are talking, you know, he said as they crossed the parade ground. Word of what you did is spreading fast. That's unfortunate, but unavoidable, Rachel replied. They're calling you the ghost sniper, Harrington continued, a hint of amusement in his voice. Apparently your shots were so fast and precise that some of them thought we had a sniper team on site. Rachel said nothing, her expression neutral. "The thing I don't understand," the colonel continued, "is the flinching. Even knowing it was an act, it seemed so genuine, especially for someone with your background." Rachel was quiet for a moment before responding. "The best covers contain elements of truth, sir. The flinching, that part wasn't entirely an act." Harrington glanced at her, surprised. "Helmand Province, 2017, she explained quietly. "Our position was compromised during a high-value target operation. I took a round through my helmet, close enough that the sonic pressure caused significant auditory trauma. After recovery and rehabilitation, I was cleared to return to duty. But loud, unexpected noises still trigger an involuntary physical response. Yet you're still one of the most effective operators in the field," Harrington observed. "You adapt," Rachel said simply. "In combat situations, the training takes over. The flinching stops. But in normal environments," she shrugged, "it made for a convenient cover." As they reached the armory, they found a group of soldiers gathered outside, many of them from the range that morning. Staff Sergeant Martinez stepped forward as Rachel approached. "Ma'am," he said, the address now respectful rather than mocking. "We wanted to," he paused, seeming unsure how to continue. "We wanted to thank you for what you did today." Rachel looked at the assembled soldiers, noting the changed expressions. Where there had been amusement and dismissal that morning, there was now something else. Respect, certainly, but also a kind of understanding. They were seeing her, perhaps for the first time, as one of their own. "Just doing my job, Sergeant," she replied quietly. "Your real job," Martinez clarified, "not the one we thought you had." Rachel glanced at Colonel Harrington, who gave a slight nod. Her cover was irreparably blown. There was no point in further deception. "Yes," she acknowledged, "my real job." Specialist Adams, one of the younger soldiers, stepped forward hesitantly. "Ma'am, is it true what they're saying? That you were Delta?" Rachel didn't answer directly. "I've served where I was needed," she said simply. "The tattoo on your neck," Martinez said. "I saw it when you were shooting. That's the JSOC insignia, isn't it?" Rachel's hand moved unconsciously to her neck, where the tattoo had been exposed. "It's a reminder," she said after a moment, "of promises made." The soldiers nodded, understanding the significance even if they didn't know the specific details. In military culture, such tattoos were often deeply personal markers of service, sacrifice, and brotherhood, or in Rachel's case, sisterhood. "Will you be staying?" asked another soldier. "Now that, you know, that's not up to me," Rachel replied, glancing again at Colonel Harrington. The colonel stepped forward. "Master Sergeant Wilson's assignment here has evolved," he said carefully, "but she'll be remaining at Fort Bragg for the immediate future, in a somewhat different capacity." The soldiers exchanged glances, clearly curious but knowing better than to press for classified information. "In the meantime," Harrington continued, "I trust you all understand that today's events are subject to operational security protocols. What happened here doesn't leave the base." "Yes, sir," came the unified response. As the soldiers dispersed, Martinez lingered behind. "For what it's worth," he said to Rachel, "I'm sorry about the comments earlier, about you being afraid of gunfire." Rachel studied him for a moment. "We all carry different scars from our service, Sergeant. Some are just more visible than others." Martinez nodded, a new understanding in his eyes. "Yes, ma'am," he said, and turned to leave. Later that evening, as the investigation into the attack continued, Rachel found herself back at the armory, completing the maintenance work that had been interrupted by the day's events. The worn feed pawl that had started it all still sat on her workbench, a small mechanical problem that seemed trivial in the context of what had followed. As she worked, she heard the door open behind her. Without turning, she knew who it was. The measured tread of combat boots on concrete was distinctive. "They've picked up Collins," said the man who entered, "and two of his associates. The network is being dismantled as we speak." Rachel nodded, continuing her work on the M2049. "Good." Master Sergeant Michael Reeves, another civilian contractor who worked in base logistics, leaned against the workbench. Like Rachel, he was part of the undercover team assigned to Operation Stillwater. "So what happens now?" he asked. "With your cover blown, the original mission parameters are compromised." Rachel finished tightening a component before answering. "We adapt. JSOC is revising the operational directive. I'll be transitioning to a new role, official rather than undercover. Weapons and tactical instructor for the 82nd. Reeves raised an eyebrow. From hiding in plain sight to standing in the spotlight. That's quite a change. The mission evolves, Rachel replied, testing the action of the repaired weapon. We evolve with it. And the auditory response issues? Reeves asked carefully. They had served together long enough that he knew her history. Still there, she admitted, but manageable. The doctors at Walter Reed have some new therapies they want me to try. Reeves nodded, understanding the unspoken reality, that some wounds never fully heal, that operators like them found ways to continue serving despite the physical and psychological toll of their profession. The soldiers are looking at you differently now, he observed. Word travels fast. Let them look, Rachel said, setting down her tools and finally turning to face her colleague. Maybe it's good for them to be reminded. Reminded of what? That you can't always tell who the warriors are just by looking, she replied. That the person you mocked today might be the one who saves your life tomorrow. Reeves smiled slightly. A valuable lesson. Besides, Rachel continued, there's an advantage to them knowing what I can do. The next time I tell them their weapon needs maintenance, they won't argue. The following morning, Rachel arrived at the base at her usual time, 5:45 a.m. But instead of heading to the armory, she made her way to the headquarters building, where Colonel Harrington was waiting with her new assignment details. As she crossed the parade ground, she noticed something different. The soldiers she passed, many of whom had previously ignored her or treated her with barely concealed amusement, now acknowledged her with respectful nods or salutes. Word had indeed traveled fast. Rachel returned the gestures with quiet dignity. The nervous, flinching armorer was gone, but she hadn't fully reverted to her operator persona either. She was something in between now, a warrior whose battles had changed her, but not defeated her, a soldier who had found a different way to serve. The tattoo on her neck, no longer hidden by her hair, caught the early morning sunlight. 32 hash marks for 32 confirmed operations. 32 times she had been the last thing her targets ever saw. 32 moments when her steady hands and unflinching resolve had made the difference between mission success and failure. Now those same hands would train the next generation of soldiers, teaching them not just how to maintain and operate their weapons, but how to overcome their own invisible wounds and continue serving with honor. Some heroes hide in plain sight, carrying their battles within them long after they've left the battlefield. Some warriors fight their greatest fights in silence, their victories known only to a select few. And sometimes, the person you least expect turns out to be exactly the hero you need when crisis strikes.